who have been raising a lot of anxiety in the minds of the people, thereby causing a lot of fright. The other day I was listening to some leaders who were lamenting, I don't know what that is. Too far. A leader, you must give hope to the people you are leading. There is no such thing as real things have run out of hand. We are in charge. Every Ugandan owes a duty to the state to ensure that there is peace and tranquility. So I call upon the Ugandans out there to be cautious of their environment where they live in. See who is near there, who is a stranger. Report, work with the security. Work with your neighbors and whoever is there so that we eliminate this thuggery together. We can't leave it only to security.
Mr. Chola, when you say we are in charge, that is a statement many of the security chiefs have given, and unfortunately, in the recent past, it would be said, and in the next day probably, another person is kidnapped, another person is murdered. For example, for the cases of the women murders in Entebbe. Would you still say that same statement to a person who lost a relative through those kidnaps and the wave of murders? How would you
if we were not in charge, then there would be lawlessness everywhere. In the whole country, there would be lawlessness. That's why I'm saying that yes, I am admitting that yes, recently there was a spate of kidnaps and murders, yes. But still, we have taken charge, we arrested a number of people. Actually, most of them have been arrested, they're in reports. So at least the security is doing what it is mandated to do. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, we'll be continuing with this discussion. Breaking the ice, of course, we were getting the overview of the security situation in Uganda. We'll, of course, still have the Commissioner of Prisons and the government spokesperson as well speaking to us about their view on security. But for now, we'll be taking a short break. As we take the break, let's continue with this discussion on social media. The hashtag to use is SecurityUG. We'll be right back.
We are your entertainment this weekend. See the quest to Hotel Majestic on Africa Magic Family. Watch surgeons work a miracle on E! Entertainment. Catch animals under the global skies 24/7 on Nat Geo Wild. Stay connected for more amazing amusement only on GoTV Max and GoTV Plus. GoTV. Live it. Love it.
Satisfy your growth with Kiss condoms, which are of high quality and in 3 different flavors. There's Kiss Classic, Kiss Chocolate, and Kiss Strawberry. A jump is on you, my man.
Kiss condoms, available in 3 textured variants. Be a man. Give your girl.
When I started out, all I had was my dreams. A belief that every man deserves his own home. I got myself a mortgage from Housing Finance Bank and I built this house. I say house because it only became a home when she came into the picture. Like me, she believed we had to build our future. We had a child and needed to open a Total Treasures account. My wife's farming business was boosted with a Housing Finance agribusiness loan. My friend Brian was so inspired. He took out a salary loan and started his own hardware. The thing is, people know Housing Finance Bank to be the most reliable mortgage bank. So did I. Housing Finance has done more than help me build a house. It helped and is still helping us build a future as a family. Housing Finance Bank. We make it easy.
Housing Finance Bank is regulated by the Bank of Uganda.
So right now I'm feeling very happy for winning a car. I loaded airtime using mobile money. Just only 2,000, 1,000 for voice calls, 1,000 for data. Then from there I received a call from Kazora calling me that I'm the pro and that I'm a winner of the car from MTN. By that time I did not believe him. But right now, the car is mine, it's here. It's here. So I'm feeling the car, I'm feeling it.
Wangule motoka zi Primozi TV za Samsung, esimu zikafiti, school fees, ne mobile money. Nyiga star emumkaga tano star B hash. Okusako airtime mobile bundles. Momo nyabo!
Every day I see patients who come to me suffering from infectious diseases caused by germs, from typhoid to diarrhea, flu and cough. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily. When we use the toilet, from our door handles, from other surfaces, and we transfer to others without realizing. Germs are inevitable. That is why we recommend Dettol Antiseptic Liquid. Use the power of Dettol's 1 cupful to protect your family with our best germ protection ever. For bathing, for cleaning and disinfecting surfaces, for cuts and wounds. Be Dettol sure.
Minute is a trusted Pan-African advisor that meets the uncertainties of tomorrow by delivering risk and human capital solutions today. Visit us for the best insurance solutions, risk management, human capital consulting, and reinsurance. Minute is the exclusive Aeon correspondent with access to over 120 countries. Minute. Secure tomorrow.
Minute Limited is regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda.
When your passion depends on it.
Who are yet to lose in third in the group. Keeper chose not to hold on. The closing down right from the front. Now, byline
and your life too. And then just avoid the uncertainty by powering your life with our extensive range of high-quality solar solutions. Power your business, household, and farming with our flexible credit and excellent customer service.
Solar now. Power your life.
The young generation which doesn't have education, they need some money to get education. And some parents, they don't have that money for education children. That's why I'm asking the government to help some children who doesn't have education so that they can build more schools and they can help them so that they can get education.
The education sector will be allocated more than 3,000 billion shillings in the next financial year. Is this enough to improve the quality of education in Uganda? Let's find out together on the 14th of June 2018 at the budget reading. Our budget, our responsibility. This message is brought to you by CS Bank.
Live and in glorious HD, world-class commentary and expert analysis on up to 6 SuperSport channels. Connect with greatness and get a fully installed DSTV HD decoder plus a month's DSTV compact subscription for only 182,500 shillings.
DSTV in particular, I love.
Parents, children are adventurous. We advise always to keep car keys out of reach of children. Otherwise, they may be tempted to drive their car. Twedeco, every life matters.
This message was brought to you by Viva Energy and NTV Uganda.
I'm Blazing Bo. I sent one SMS and I got this TV. I threw the drawers, 5 people. I won the screen, keep drinking Pepsi, to get prizes. I feel okay, I feel happy. 1 soda and then get a screen. I advise them to take soda and win some prizes. Because all the 5 guys walk out with a present. It's a very good thing.
NTV. You can watch us live on Urban TV, on Bukede Television. You can watch us on UBC and the various, of course, sister stations and radio stations of Vision Group. To follow up on social media, you will use hashtag SecurityUG. Post in your question to any of the security chiefs, to any of the ministers right here, and we'll have that answered in our later session where we'll have your view heard. I am Mildred Tohaise, and we'll continue, of course, with this particular discussion. As we went into the break, of course, we didn't have an overview of the security discussion, and I will start off with the Commissioner of Prisons. What's your general view? Because I think that's reflected in how many people you do have.
Thanks, Mildred. Dear viewers, I want to assure you that of recent we have been extremely busy admitting discharging to court, discharging to all types of courts, the International Crime Division, the High Court, you are aware, all the people, all the suspects who are arrested for the Entebbe murders are with us, safely. All the suspects who were arrested and brought to us for the massacre, Panga welding murders, are with us. Two of them tried to challenge our authority. We taught them a lesson, which you know very well. All the people who have been arrested for all the various cases of kidnap are with us safely. So I can comfortably say that our activity is very high, and we shall continue to do.
Meaning there
the
is
same.
a lot of crime rates, that's why you have a lot of...
Whatever activity takes place in the public out there, you always send to me.
All right. Just for the overview bit, I'll have you, the government spokesperson, Mr. Fonopan.
Well, let me just add my voice really to say, majority of Ugandans are good people, law-abiding, and therefore our call really is, first of all, don't lose confidence in your government and its security agencies. Don't lose confidence in yourself, because to do so would to yield the ground to criminals who want it to have it the easy way. Secondly, Ugandans should pay a lot of attention to the changing nature of society, which also determines changing nature of crimes that are taking place around the world, not just Uganda. For the criminals who are squatting somewhere in hiding, we should speak with one voice to them. I know they may be watching us on this show, that they will be found. You may shoot or follow, you may assassinate or follow, but the rest of Ugandans will hunt you down. Secondly, to the naysayers, particularly the intellectuals, the political class, the naysayers, who want to help the criminals by driving anxiety, driving fear, perhaps for political gain. We should again tell them, no, you the naysayers, and there are plenty in Uganda. To you, the colleagues in the media, perhaps unconsciously, you do find insecurity, you do find fear in the public. We need to come together and say, many of us are hardworking people, many of us are law-abiding. We should never let our platforms be used by criminal elements to threaten the gains Ugandans are making.
Are you insinuating some criminals take advantage of
yes.
the platforms?
Yeah, for example, if you have somebody perhaps out of mischievous intent, writes anonymous letter, and the media help them to circulate, perhaps on social media, sometimes even mainstream media, without corroborating the veracity of a document. You may unknowingly, unconsciously be helping that person to find anxiety, to find fear. And by so doing, you give them ground, because then they mobilize the resources. They say, we have managed to scare Ugandans. And I'm saying, let us not allow them to disrupt our way of life. Okay. We must stand firm, look them into the eyes, and say, you won't defeat us, you won't defeat the rest of Ugandans.
Now switching to the issue of murders, kidnaps and gun violence, this has been the talk of town in the recent past. And I'll start with you, IGP, Mr. Ochola. First of all, what's the latest of update Uganda can get from the latest gruesome murder, that's the killing of a Rua Municipality Member of Parliament, Kano Ibrahim Abiriga, was laid to rest?
Thank you, Ms. What I can tell Ugandans is that ever since the incident took place, we embarked on investigations. We have some leads we are following, which leads I cannot disclose at this time. It will be premature, but I want to assure the public that we are on the right track. As the OO has said, whether they are hiding anywhere, those who are the perpetrators of that crime, whether they are hiding where, we will look for them and ensure that the law takes its course. That's what I can tell Uganda.
This is not the first case of gun violence with a single murder in this particular nature. Why do we have increased gun violence in the country? What could it be attributed to?
Well, perhaps, of course, there are a number of guns in wrong hands out there. A lot of hardened criminals. The ADF are just across the borders here. Other terrorist groups may be operating near our borders, so there's a lot of firearms infiltration in the country. But of course, we are having an exercise to really document the firearms which are in lawful hands, so that those who continue having illegal firearms now will have to be dealt with the family. That's what the position is at this moment.
I'll probably throw it to the Chief of Defense Forces. A number of times in some of these murders that have been happening and the kidnaps, the aspect of ADF and some other criminal elements has been brought up. What do you have to say about that?
Well, like the IGP said, ADF is still there in Congo. It was ejected from here, but it's still alive in our restive neighborhood, taking advantage of the ungoverned space, especially in eastern DRC. And sometimes it has sleeper cells around, and some of these are involved in mischief here. But that said, I want to go back to the first point of comparison of the present and the past. And at one time it seems to be like you think we underplay the value of lives, whether one or two people. We attach a lot of importance to life, whether it's a young person, whether it's an old person, whether it's a big person, a small person. What we want to say, however, is that our reading this time round is that this type of criminality has been amplified also by publicity. The unintended consequences of information, fast, crude, reliable, unreliable, and that one also adds to the anxiety. Now the measures we want to use to address this menace, some of them shared by the IGP, include taking stock of the firearms in official hands, because technically each firearm has its signature features, yes. And those ones at the time of manufacture. So we are going to record each firearm and its features, so that if in the unlikely event that a gun from officialdom is used in mischief, it can easily be traced to the owner, and that one will isolate those ones in wrongful hands. We are forensic experts now do collect evidence from scenes of crime, and what it helps is to compare if, say, a weapon has been previously used by wrong people, it can be easily traced. But those measures will also be complemented by foundation security, and that's where the army comes in.
Have you been able to trace any of, have you been able to do some forensics on the past murders? We have had Joe and Kagezi gunned down. We were able to find out a gun that was used, and probably checking out all those details that you're talking about. The same for the late AIGP Andrew Felix Kawesi. Have you been able to find out bits of information about that?
Yeah, the pictures were picked. The scenes of crime were swept by our forensic people, and that is part of the technical evidence they are going to use against the culprits in custody. At this stage, I can't share the details, but that piece of evidence was gathered, and at the right time, it will be used in prosecution. But that said, one of the other measures I want to share with the country is the issue of foundation security. It is the view of government that in most cases we respond after the fact, and the people are vulnerable. So the time-tested concept of foundation security in the form of LDUs, so that people are not vulnerable, nakedly vulnerable, is stopped, so that there is a first line of security in the form of local defense units, which is a little bit cost-friendly in terms of remuneration of those people. They are at their places, they have a stake, they are vetted by the local systems, and then those can be reinforced by police, by the other agencies. So that is one other measure we want to put in place. And then, of course, the media, very, very important player in amplifying hope, not doom, not anxiety, not sensation. So we need your support to handle this challenge.
To the Minister for Security, the issue of intelligence, because an investigation will always go on, but the question is, at a scene of crime, there is a lot of information that can be gotten from there, even after the crime has happened itself. How far have you gone with intelligence, and how are you dealing with it?
Yes, you know, the interesting thing with the media is for you collect the breaking news of that day, you broadcast it that day, and then take it. While with security and investigations and intelligence, it's a process right from the scene of crime. Of course, even before the scene of crime, first of all, intelligence prevents so much that could have happened, which of course you don't know about. You only know of what defeats intelligence and eventually crime is committed. But the process that follows after that is that after the scene of crime, the police takes all the evidence they can get, investigations start to follow up, tracking and looking for all the necessary connections, and it's like really weaving a net to make the knots come together. Is not just as easy as talking about it. And that's why it takes time, that investigations must be concrete for them to be credible in the next phase of taking these people to court. And that's why sometimes you may not get immediate results, because it needs that time of investigation. And sometimes it is a network. If the criminals have a network, you follow those networks together with the CID, the Criminal Investigation Department, and get more information from the public, from all sources, from technical means, so that the evidence is concrete. And that's what takes time. That's what the public may not know. Meanwhile, the media is enjoying all the questions they put, and they sometimes try to answer them by themselves and present their own solutions as if security has no care or doesn't mind about it.
But are you up to the task on the aspect of intelligence? Because the recent murders have been blamed on weaknesses in intelligence, being able to trap the criminals, for example, at exit points.
Well, there might be. There's no, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. There's no person who is 100% perfect. Definitely there might be some weaknesses. That one should be accepted, that there might be weaknesses here and there. But the bigger part which you should also know is, if we knew how much has been prevented, people would, if people were to blow their own whistle, their own trumpets, preventing anything happening like at Namugongo, where millions of people were gathering, is not the one we talk about. We talk only about one incident or two of which happened, and then blame. Because there are two types of people in the world which we have, the pessimists and the optimists. Now, we seem to have the pessimists whose main role, and this is unfortunate that they seem to have captured the media, whose main role is normally to blame, is normally to alarm the public, cause terrorism in the minds, blame everybody, including those who are handling the matter, and cause terrorism in the mind, as opposed to optimists, which is the other part of the public, who are always looking for the better future, who are always looking for solutions, who are looking for constructive criticism if it is there, and it should be there. Now, that's where the third category of people in the middle get wavered here and there. And the pessimists seem to have captured most of the journalists and most of the media people. And that, unfortunately, while actions or like the government has been doing speak louder than words, but sometimes words convince and change attitudes of people. Now this image of the media has created that alarmism that there is no security, there is weakness of the intelligence, and there is blame to them, is uncalled for, and they should talk of how much capacity has been established and gained, and have hope and assure the public that really a lot has been gained in building capacity at every level, in all the security services, in UPDF, in police, in intelligence services. We have much better capacity than ever before, and we shall deal with these cases as we shall see very soon. These criminals, we are getting into their nets, and they will be defeated.
If you are talking about weaknesses, what are some of those weaknesses, and how have you been able to deal with them? And could infiltration be part of that?
Of course, much of the weakness is the ability to infiltrate those circles of the criminals. And it's going on. I do not have to tell you how much we have infiltrated or whom we have infiltrated. And that's how we come to get to arrest them. Those who have been arrested, of these murder cases, about 90 who have been arrested. One of the ways of getting to them is, one of it is infiltration, but it could be better. It could be done better, and we are working on that. And when the tactics in every situation, because at every time new challenges come, if a new challenge comes, we also change the tactics, we change our tools, we change our organizational capacity, depending on which challenge that comes. But we mainly depend on the same principles of strategy, of involving the public, and that's why we are here to actually mobilize the public, mobilize the people through the media, mobilize the media people, because they are the ones who could be more closer, who are easy to infiltrate those criminals. Instead of just thinking it is it will not come from me, instead of being vigilant to support the security services, then that's what will make it even more, will make infiltration, will make intelligence, and we get help the police to get to the criminals. So we are here to really mobilize everybody and assure them that if we are coordinated, if we are organized, we shall improve the work of the security services, while we also improve the security services themselves.
Maybe if I just add before you come to the question.
Yes, and I was actually coming to you, yes.
The question I wanted to ask you, and all of us Ugandan, is who is this criminal? Is your uncle? Is your father? Is your brother? Is your aunt? So they do not come from out there from the world, the mass. They are amongst us. If we took the trouble to understand, to know, and to become our brothers and sisters keepers, we would know the source of this criminality.
And to that, I would ask, what are the motivations to these murders, to the kidnaps? Because if we would put into context the murders of the entire women, up to now the public is still in balance, because the report that was given partly was Illuminati, which was not convincing enough for the public. What are the motivations to these murders?
Motivations, if I may. Yes, please.
Okay.
I think reading the pattern, our reading is calculated to instill fear and anxiety in the public, looking at the targets, looking at the trends, looking at women and children are very emotive targets. So that would, and also to cause disaffection against government. We read this one and we think that is what, and we call upon the public, don't succumb to what they want, because this is an attack on our way of life, and we think the public doesn't need to play into their hands. But about the other point I wanted to talk about, gun crime, yes, happened in the recent past, but not entrenched, not common. Actually, the people who have been lost at the hands of violent criminals have been mainly due to other methods, guns. So that's why, on top of features of weapons and management of weapons is one thing, but it can only be reinforced with the management of evidence, especially other features of criminals. They are repeat offenders. So we need to capture their biodata so that somebody who goes in and out of prison can easily be handled. Our criminal justice system is retributive. It's about punishment. People go in prison, serve, come out, and they do most times what they did before. So we need a system to capture those repeat offenders, and that is an area Mr. Byabasheja can amplify and talk about better. The other gaps that you were asking about in the area of the evidential burden. You may know somebody did something, but in the courts of law, the burden of proof is on prosecution, is on the state, and it's high. There's a certain level that you have to read. There's a threshold of proof you have to satisfy court in order to achieve conviction. Some people are not convicted because of technical reasons. They go back to do what they did. So those are challenges we need to look at in a holistic way in order to address this menace.
All right, still on the aspect of motivations, I think I'll come back. He did a supplement to that. I'll still come back to you. General JJ.
First of all, as I had started to point out, you see, we all live in a society, and the society is dynamic. It is therefore important for us to understand this society which we live in. If again you take the case of the women in Nansana and Wakiso that you quoted about, what kind of human beings are these, and what kind of lives do they live? What are the objective socio-economic conditions that they live in? Once we begin to understand this, we may begin to cull a little, to get a little understanding of their circumstances and therefore the drivers for the actions that we eventually interpret as crime, and therefore why they become susceptible as victims of crime. So that is one. We must understand the socio-economic objective conditions of these people and the communities they live in. Secondly, we must understand the dynamism of our society. What used to be the norm is no longer what is the norm. And we must understand what are these new elements that have come in our societies. Is it the question of unemployment? Is it the question of drugs? And if drugs, why drugs? And what happens after that? So it is a complex of possible causes of these elements of criminality.
Did you manage to point out specifics, and in those different cases that you have given, did you manage to point out specifics on motivations?
Certainly, yes. If, as I mentioned, and as we have already mentioned, in the cases of the Wakiso women, when investigations were carried out, for 7 of those women, we were able to identify one individual through DNA matching. What was the problem with this individual? One, he was available for hire. So there was motivation for pecuniary gain. We could specifically point to that individual. In other cases, others whom we are still continuing to corroborate the evidence on is the question of use of drugs. And so we find it extremely disturbing that drugs, pecuniary motivation, by virtue of the socio-economic conditions that they live in, have played a part in the perpetration of crime in certain circumstances.
All right, I'll come to the CDF just briefly once again. On the issue of gun violence, you as well, I beg your pardon, the IGP, you ordered a gun audit. How far with it, and how do you intend to use that particular information?
Well, once the audit is done, now we shall be able to verify these who have these firearms, what eligibility do they have? Are there security threats? What are the nature of security threats to them to cause them to possess these firearms? Mark you, as I speak now, I have suspended new acquisitions of firearms. So that gives us time now to analyze those who are currently having them, and that is what the audit is all about.
How long do we expect it to take, and when does the country get to know the findings?
Well, I gave them 2 months, so I think this is the second month now. At the end of this month, I expect to get that report.
All right, we'll hold you accountable, of course, as the media. I'll come to you, the Executive Director, Media Center, Mr. Fonopondo. One of the reasons that the CDF did give is causing disaffection to government. One of the reasons motivating murder, the kidnaps. What do you have to say about that? Why would one want to disaffect the government? Is it about the challenges the government is is having, or some of what is perceived as the failures of the current government?
Well, I will not shy away from it, because in this country there are people who have said this government is not good. Don't mind that it has been elected over and over again. And therefore, even if they are not part of the criminal elements, they would want to hype the political narrative that this government has failed, is no good. And therefore, there could be a political motivation from them. Secondly, a while back, the Minister for Security did indicate terrorism. Are they terrorists linked to external terrorists or internal terrorism? Certainly, if you look at the high-profile matters, particularly the one of this last weekend, while analysis is going on, there is a clear indication of an attempt to spread political fear among those who support a certain political persuasion, particularly those who support the NRM and the ruling government. You saw not very long ago people who said, if you dare touch it, we shall do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. When we are still analyzing and trying to connect the dots, we won't discount that. It seems to me, and general government, and today the president did mention it, I don't think the president was talking out of the blue, that there seems to be an attempt by mischievous political actors in the futile hope that they can intimidate their contenders, their opponents in the political field, not to publicly attest to what they would like to have. And we want to tell them that they will not succeed in intimidating the NRM, and indeed we would not want either the NRM to intimidate those who contend with the NRM. The NRM has built a vibrant, robust, democratic dispensation that there should be no reason for any political actor to work with the criminals, to perpetuate, to instigate political assassination, political intimidation using violence. Whatever differences that we have, the peaceful legal platforms do exist to enable us to contend and resolve those through democratic means, either in courts of law or in elections, like many cycles of elections that we have. So that's one. The second one, in some of the cases there have been clearly financial motives. Take the cases of either real kidnaps where people ask for ransom. Clearly, those are looking for quick money, perhaps. Two, if you look at the cases, many of the cases of false kidnaps, self-kidnaps, where somebody hides in the hope that they can blackmail their friends, their business associates, their family members into giving money. So there's clearly pecuniary or financial interest. Now, what should we do? The ones who have pecuniary financial interest, we need to tell them in clear language that this is not the best way because it is criminal to try to use this method to earn a living. The ones who want to use this as a political motive, who have political motive, which we are still following, we need to tell them publicly that this is unacceptable, using assassination, using blackmail, using intimidation as a way to push your political agenda. The NRM has fought a long battle and the history is known. Never once did the NRM use political assassination. Even when NRM came into government, take the example of ADF, take the example of LRA, take the example of UPA. Quite often, the UPDF, NRA then would say, please come out and give clear notice. Never once did the NRA or the government of Uganda use assassination. And we would want to persuade our fellow political contenders that if they want to take that line, it is a futile attempt. You can assassinate one person, you may even assassinate 100 people, but you will not kill the spirit of democracy of the majority of Ugandans, or indeed of the leaders in the NRM.
And maybe coming to the Commissioner of Prisons, the CDF did talk about the aspect of repeat offenders, and we've seen this happening probably a number of times. If you could give us some statistics, at which rate are we, and are you trying to deal with this aspect of having repeat offenders? Because we do expect and hope that when someone is put in prisons, it's meant for rehabilitation.
Absolutely. And we have a repeat offending rate of 20%. Out of 100 the people you give me to rehabilitate, convicted, when I discharge them, 20% come back. Interestingly, this is the lowest in Africa. This is the lowest repeat offending rate in Africa. Our success rate is 80%. So, but we have the hardcores who constitute the 20%, and it is our mission to make sure that we rehabilitate all you bring to us. That's why I have those programs. Yes, please.
What is constituting the 20%? Repeat offenders, are they all hardcore criminals like you're referring them to, or are they
necessarily all hardcore? Because, for example, I want to give you an example of if I have 100 prisoners, 16% of them will be capital offenders of murder. 14% of them will be capital offenders of aggravated defilement. 12% will be aggravated robbery. Down there. So the proportion will follow that. Those who come back are also in that proportion. And we have so many rehabilitation programs that we are trying to make sure that if we were to do a thorough job, we would come probably to 15%. Let me give you an example. Repeat offending in the United States of America, the greatest democracy in inverted commas, 72%. United Kingdom, repeat offending, 66%. So you can make judgment.
In your statements, you say if you were to do a thorough job, you would bring it to 15. What's hindering you? What's hindering you from doing a thorough job?
Oh, process. So many challenges.
We would like to know some of those.
Is your economy able to give me? Is the economy able to give me the rehabilitation facilities I require quickly enough? have been building over time to reach this level of having 20% recidivism rate. We call that one the recidivism rate. I wish I had more resources to do a more thorough job. But we have so many things to do, and I think we are moving, me as the prisoners, I think we are moving on the right track as far as repression is concerned.
Maybe briefly, before we do take a very short break, to the Defense Minister, with all these murders, the kidnaps, we've seen joint operations by the various security agencies. How far with these are they yielding any result?
Oh yes, the stability that we talked about, I and my colleagues talked about a few minutes ago, is a product of that joint effort. And my colleagues, Honorable Tumwine, talked about something very, very important. There is the untold story which the media does not touch, of cases which would have been catastrophic if the intelligence community and our security forces were not vigilant. These are not reported, and they don't have to be reported because of their security nature. What would have happened if the security forces were not vigilant at Namugongo? What would happen with all these discotheques which are prevailing all over the country if our security forces were not alert? What would happen to this country? So they are unreported cases of success which are averted, which would be catastrophic, but are averted because of the efficient intelligence system that we have. Those are not reported. Those are not talked about. Those are not, there is no alarmism that comes from those because they are positive. Namugongo happened, no incident happened, nobody died, so that's not a story. But nobody mentions the fact that the peaceful end of that celebration was because of the vigilance of our security forces. Why are people referring to us as an island of peace? The vigilance of our security forces. So really, there is a lot that is being done which does not have to be publicized to keep this country stable as it has been and as it will continue to be. So yes, there is a joint effort of security forces, as it should be, because we are all working for one government. There are specializations for purposes of efficiency, but at the end of the day, it is the government of Uganda whose responsibility it is to keep law and order.
All right, we'll be getting back to all those.
Look around this table. From the other end across here, police, prisons, army. It's not a show. It's a demonstration of the fact that all these agencies are working together.
All right, and that is evidenced, of course, by the personnel that have been able to come through. We'll be taking a very short break, but we continue with this discussion. We continue to call upon you to give in your questions on the hashtag SecurityUG. We'll take a very short break and return.
Financial literacy brought to you by NTV, PwC, and DFCU Bank.
When you are investing, the money you put aside for investing, you must be very careful that you put in investment money after you have taken care of your subsistence. Why investment group die is because I earn HDK. Then that money I put it in an investment group, but it will be the money I'll be needing to pay rent, school fees, eat, and all that. This is where we go wrong. Put money in an investment group that you have saved after taking care of. I want you to think of like a pension plan. When you start in your investment group, think of, I'll be retiring at 50, at 55. What is it that I want to do so that it goes beyond, takes care of my retirement, takes care of succession, takes care of my kids. These are very, very important aspects. Endeavor to create a company for wealth purposes, and for growing. These are very, very important.
Financial literacy was brought to you by NTV, PwC, and DFCU Bank. DFCU Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Uganda.
This is the future, where farmers don't have any weather drama. Why would they? They can predict the weather. Where these traders are working on a sure bet. They went online to find a sure market. And this guy is closing deals to buy containers full of all kinds of boxes, while chilling at home in his favorite boxes. We are the future. We wake up from naps to build apps that are downloaded everywhere on the map. We turn any corner into a corner office. We are mobile bosses. Instagram is our marketplace. Who needs floor space? We have cyberspace. Welcome to the future, where you don't need to be in a classroom to be in class. Where you can be there for someone without being there with someone. Where it doesn't matter who or where you are. There is a team that brings us together. Be a part of the future. With high-speed internet everywhere. This is the new Uganda. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Mama nyabo wangula ne MTN mobile money.
Amayaga agenze Benadeti. Era lero ndi muwanguzi wa motoka okuva mu MTN Momo Nyabo promotion. Na dialing star 165 star 2 hash. I loaded airtime. I bought data. And now I'm a winner of the third car from the MTN Momo Nyabo promotion. Right now I have the keys here with me.
Win premium cars, Samsung TV, stuff feed phones, school fees, and mobile money. Simply dial star 165 star 2 hash and load airtime or bundles. Momo Nyabo! Everywhere you go, MTN.
Kitchen gets a 10 out of 10. Thank you. This also gets a 10. Should we see the toilet now? Sure. This gets just 1.
It is clean.
But not perfect.
Better than my cleaners? Impossible.
Challenge. Try the new Harpic 10X. Compared to ordinary cleaners, Harpic stick formulation removes yellow stains 10 times better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow.
Now you also take
the Harpic 10X challenge.
Did you know that 75% of the diseases you take to hospital are preventable if only you paid attention to your health and wellness? If you are tired of making unnecessary trips to the doctor, take charge of your health today. Ensure that you and your whole family sleep under an insecticide-treated mosquito net every night. Improve and maintain personal hygiene and sanitation by washing hands thoroughly with soap and water after every visit to the toilet and before eating food to avoid contracting and transmitting disease-causing germs. Proper and consistent use of safety restraint devices such as helmets, boots, safety belts. These increase the chance of survival in case of an automobile accident. Taking responsibility for you and your loved one's health is an everyday job. Be responsible, live healthy. Brought to you by National Medical Store with support from the Ministry of Health.
Security UG Amelda Tohai say once again. I'll come to you, CDF, directly. The president recently did announce that crime preventers had been put as a reserve force. How far with this? Have they been trained? And tell us about the reserve force and the numbers we do have, because there have been various reports about 12 million, 11 million. What exactly is the number of our reserve force?
Crime preventers, it's true. There's a standing directive of the Commander-in-Chief to remove them from the police and put them under the UPDF as part of the reserve forces. The reserve forces are the non-standing forces that support the military when need arises. It's a standing service of the UPDF. De facto, de jure, we want to cause amendments to the Act to make it one of the legal services of the UPDF. And I think my minister has done the needful. There's a draft bill to that effect. It has command and control structures across the country. So what we shall do is to place these crime preventers under the reserve forces. That said,
You're trying to mean you're working on the laws?
Not for the crime preventers, for the reserve force in general. The crime preventers, I think the logic of the president was to make them accountable to someone. There was an image issue, it's true, and the country knew it, about some of them. The idea was good, but some of them were indulging in mischief. So after, in the wisdom of our commander-in-chief, he thought they would be better placed under the reserve forces, but within the spirit of national service, because crime prevention in any case is not an occupation. Ideally, everyone should be a crime preventer.
What is the role of these crime preventers? Because to the public, these are perceived political people.
No, they are not. They were vigilantes that were helping in fighting crime. Coming to numbers, we are verifying how many there are through their structures. They had a secretariat, they had regional coordinators, they had regional district coordinators up to the village levels. And we were told by their leadership that up to the parish, they could account for them. The other ones, they had data, which now we need to verify and to put a name to a face. That is what we are doing. And then there are transitional arrangements. How do they move from the police to the UPDF? But also I want to tell the country that we want them as part of the reserves within the sense of national service. Article 17 says every able Ugandan should be part of the national service, ideally. But there is a cost to it. Challenges of training, huge cost implication. So recourse has been now through the patriotism clubs to offer a special ideological and some small military training. So we haven't gone that route. What we have now are mostly veterans who form our reserves, but ideally we should move towards national service.
Where are these crime preventers now? Because if you are still talking about them being taken in,
they are places of residence, they are in their homes.
Many people believe these are also responsible for the high crime rate because some of the crime preventers are actually armed. Are they supposed to be armed? And could they be the reason, part of the reason for the crimes we are having?
My understanding, what I knew, most of them were mainly assisting police with information. They were, to my recollection, given motorcycles. And they still have those motorcycles as we manage the transition. The issue of arms, I can't really say they were armed. If they were, it's only a few of them, but it wasn't that all of them are armed. They weren't.
If you say just a few of them were armed, I would come to the Inspector General of Police. Some of those crime preventers were actually armed. And that's according to public knowledge. That's according to some of the allegations, of course, that have been brought out by the public. Why would they be armed? And I also want you to comment on the issue of parallel agencies, if we would call them so, that were armed and at one point in time executing police work. We will talk about the Border 2010 and the crime preventers as well who were given arms.
But the only issue, if I can help, so it comes in.
Yeah.
Like the Border, the leader was arrested. His brother was arrested, and that one also speaks to what you asked the Minister of Defense about joint action bearing results. There's a guy called Ekulang, I think you heard about his murder at the hands of that man, the brother of Chitata. He was arrested through joint action, the police and the military. And for Chitata, he also was arrested when he wanted to challenge security, to obstruct it from arresting his brother, but also for being suspected of bearing arms illegally. So he's now facing trial before the court martial.
I will take it back to the IGP. The reason I'm bringing it back is how did we come to the extent of having such people who commit crime placing themselves or even having a relationship with police? Police that's supposed to maintain law and order.
Well, Mildred, I have not come across any record indicating that the crime preventers were armed. At least I have not come across those records. But if the public say that they are armed, now I will verify that with them. Now, what I know, these crime preventers were volunteers from society, from village, the society, from their neighbor societies where they live in, volunteering to give information, security information, what they see and what they hear. They give it to police. But of course there are those who would wish to identify themselves with the security. We always emphasize that crime preventers, their role is to work in their locality there to feed us with information.
What sort of training did they undergo?
Well, I think they were taken through some basics, ideological reformation and some basic issues relating to crime. What you can determine as a crime, because they were now to get us information from the localities there.
But we've seen these crime preventers on police trucks. We've seen them sometimes during arrests and helping out police. Are you denying their relationship with the Uganda Police Force?
You see, Mildred, even under the what we call the Criminal Procedure Code Act, even you are empowered to arrest someone committing an offense or is about to commit it.
Absolutely.
So I don't see any problem with those people exercising that right to help security, to ensure that there's law and order in society.
Some of them have done it unlawfully, probably. Like you said recently, when you were exhibiting how a police officer is supposed to carry out an arrest, some of them have been doing it unlawfully, and that's where the question of kidnaps would as well come in. How would you separate that?
Well, Mildred, when you engage yourself in an illegality, so you will be committing either a disciplinary offense or a criminal offense, one of those. So those who are involved in those illegalities, definitely they were being punished in one way or another as individuals.
Would the public now have faith and trust that you have weeded out these agencies that were connected to the police force and working unlawfully?
I think the public now has a lot of faith in the police. As you can see, we are getting a lot of cooperation from the public.
But Mildred, I think we run the risk of losing public support for law enforcement. First of all, we should call on the public to support law enforcement, including the police, providing information, identifying suspected criminals. Now, in the course of doing so, perhaps what we need to emphasize, what are the do's and the don'ts, which conform to the laws of Uganda and to the procedures of the police. Secondly, even in lawful agencies like the police, like the army, like the intelligence services, you cannot totally say there is no black sheep. Now, what do you do with a former police officer who goes out of the way and commits offenses? That's what the IGP is saying. We must be vigilant to ensure that those under our charge or those purporting to be helping police do not go out of the way. And I think on the main, and I think this is where the media in Uganda has let the country down. You have heaped a lot of blames. I would want a media house, a journalist to come up and say, in the statistics of criminals arrested, 10 out of 20, 10 out of 100 are registered crime preventers. Or 10 out of 100 are former ex-servicemen. If you do that, then we shall be talking with hard facts, and the security chiefs will not deny. But bundling things together in general terms, I think for the elite media is not being helpful to the country.
Coming back to the IGP, maybe before I come to you, sorry, Security Minister, how has the public helped? What are some of the pointers you could have where the public has helped you in successful investigation, whereby these are investigations that you will use in the courts of law?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, maybe I'll first go with you.
You see, you jump on small things and don't see it in a broader perspective. Right from the beginning, since '86, the security agencies have been using the public and different groups to support security. We started with LDUs, local defense units. We even had defense committees working very well with the RCs and the LCs later. During insurgency, we had the vigilantes and groups of people like the Amuka in Teso, like those who helped in Karamoja, like those who helped in northern Uganda, in the Renzo region. The crime preventers were brought in by police to support police work. In that respect, of people who are living in their own villages because of cost, to make it cheaper, because for us we know how to use the little funds we have or the little resources to fulfill major security responsibilities, and this was one of them, where they would support police in information, in increasing the capacity in numbers without heavy cost to the taxpayer. Now that's how the crime preventers came in, and it was a good idea until it started now becoming as if it was a force in itself, and now it has been given how to participate, continue participating in supporting security, but under the reserve. So that's why I think it should be understood very clear. There was nothing special about them, but their motives, you're asking about what are the motives. In most of these motives, which even go to criminality and eventually lead to murders, they are either economic, where people are looking for quick money, and in the end they commit crimes and commit murder or kidnaps. They are those who are politically motivated in some of the criminalities. That's why we are now, there's a question mark on whether the later Berger is a political motivation or not. It's under investigation. Whether it is social, because some of the murders, if we looked at like those which were, if we talked, for example, the case of Kagezi, it was to disrupt justice perhaps. So the motivations are different for each target. If for the case of Kawesa, there could be many questions where it was just to say that security is not safe because of ADF and other organizations, or whichever is the culprits who will be brought to book, and soon they will. So there are different motivations for the different criminals. But when you group the whole security force or a whole group and say you stick on crime preventers to find fault with them, you stick with police to find fault with them, you stick with...
Of course, that's part of the security discussion.
Now, and you find that it is the media, the journalists, who want to know security more than those who are involved. Is where we are saying, please media, if you want to cooperate with security, cooperate with those who have been put in, who know what security, who have even dedicated their whole lives to ensuring security for Uganda. You who have just got your degrees or your diplomas on journalism, wanting to know security more than those who have dedicated all their lives for it, is really something. I was saying you seem to have been captured by the pessimists.
But the media's role is particularly to shine the spotlight on the issues, and that's the reason why you, the experts, are supposed to be answering this. So would it be right for you to blame the media then on,
yes,
on bringing out the issues that are happening?
We would like the media to be objective, to be balanced, and to listen to those who know what the subjects they are talking about. Not for them to take on the role. Of course, breaking news is your industry, is the industry of the media, and we know that's why everybody has an area where they make their living from. But when when the media now starts contributing to terrorism, of creating alarmism in the minds of the people and instill fear, that is terrorism. If you want to see the description of terrorism, that is what about things which terrorize the public when it is not actually true. Now, alarmism, pessimism, negativity all the time is what we are having to share with you and say, free media, be part of the security network, be part of creating hope for the public, for the future, be part of the Makerere slogan is we build for the future. We do not destroy the minds, we do not destroy the attitudes, we commit our lives for the better future. Not for the event, not for the moment of this program.
Yeah.
No, for what we have come from, where we have reached, where we want to go together, and how we shall go there together in security.
Honorable, the questions that the media is raising are, where are the killers, for example, of John Kagezi? Where are the killers of AIGP?
You want it today.
Are those not valid? If you could just listen to me a bit. Are those not valid questions? Because you have cited out some of the motivations for these murders, for these kidnaps. But we have not seen convictions in the courts of law. And those are the questions the media is asking.
If you are a lady and you want to say in a while cook, and you have bought your food and the family is waiting to have the food, but you have not finished cooking your food properly, would it be in order for any member to say, bring it as it is, bring your food, even if it is not ready, I want it on the table, where is it? That's what you're asking. For many times, and in the struggle that I know that we have been in, they always demand that do it now. When are you ending the war? When are you finishing insurgency? When will Konyi be killed? Now, those questions have been there. Now, the media coming to say, bring Kagezi's killers now. Don't know how long it takes.
They're asking where they not bring them
They are in prisons, the suspects. 90 people in connection with these murders, 90, have been arrested and are being investigated. And the process is wrong. They have to go through courts of law, because we must follow the law as it is. You must get good evidence to prosecute them properly. It's not by what you want to publish in your newspaper's headlines. No, it is what is required by the law, by the process, by the necessity to investigate further, by getting the whole network, not one of them. So, if we tell you, hold on, wait, we are working on it, support us, work with us, bring more information, and we work together. That's what we are here to share with you, and really to appeal to all of you that it is for all of us. It is not the alarmism, it is not the do it now or never. The process is, we've dealt with all these challenges before, and as I have told you, whichever challenge comes, we change our tactics, we change our tools, we change our levels of organization to deal with that specific threat. And as we are here to assure the public, really be assured that we are better prepared than ever before to deal with these type of crimes, and we shall deal with them, and you will see it with time. Those whom when we were starting the struggle, they used to sing a song, Kari Kayai Mama, Kari Kayai. That our war was a joke. And we told them we shall defeat this criminality. And for many, when insurgency came, everybody, some started thinking they were going to overwhelm us. We defeated them. When terrorism came, it was going and we want to assure the public that the process, the continuous effort, the capacity building, step by step, stage by stage, and challenge by challenge, has been that we have defeated these criminals, and any criminal that raises up his head, we are more prepared and we shall deal with them. And the public should know that the investment that they have put in the UPDF, in the police, in the security services, will do its work. When we don't sleep, we know why we don't sleep.
That's why they continue to ask the questions. I'll come to the IGP, and I would like the Internal Affairs Minister to look in on the aspect of investigations. Government has lost some cases in the courts of law over issues of investigation. I'd like to quote, for example, the murder of sheikhs, where we had suspects arrested over murder, and yet they were convicted for terrorism. the question that would remain, who murdered the sheikhs? And doesn't this then slap the efforts of investigation or the type of investigations that police engages in?
No, it doesn't. Because you see, a case, a court can do away with the case on a technicality. The court may find that the evidence adduced is not sufficient, but it is there, but it is not sufficient to convict on a particular offense. Therefore, it convicts on another offense, which is on the same line. Now, it is not true, if I was to add on to the minister's submission, that no convictions have been got in these murder cases. Those Bekamogas are there, they were convicted. Now, the cases of the sheikhs, all those suspects were arrested, they were committed, are waiting for trial, for hearing. It is the court that fixes the hearings. Then perhaps I would add on that at times, because the cases take long in the judicial system, witnesses, some of them die, some of them migrate, relocate. So where you can't get, say, the key witnesses, your case, therefore, aborts.
I am particularly looking at the aspect of evidence. Do you have capacity as police to gather evidence adducible before the courts of law to be able to cause a conviction? Because that's the concern of public.
Of course they do.
Precisely, that's why we get convictions.
They do.
Some have not.
I've told you those where we have not, the causes.
Because you talked about technicalities, and I will allow the Internal Affairs Minister as well to look in. You talked about technicalities. There is the aspect of the 48-hour rule, which over and over again has been violated. Some of the suspects are not produced within the 48 hours. Some of the suspects complain about torture before the courts of law within the police.
First of all, torture is not an institutional matter. Torture is criminal. If a police officer tortures a suspect, he is committing a crime. Not that it is the institution that told him to torture a suspect. Those who have ever tortured, in fact, the other day, I directed the director of CID to open a general inquiry file so that all those persons who feel they have ever been tortured by police should go there so that investigations are undertaken. There's a genuine inquiry. Now, what was your second part, the second question?
The 48-hour rule.
Yes, the 48-hour rule. Of course, we try as much as possible to comply. That is a law. However, there are certain cases which are complex. For example, treason cases, where you need to move with the suspect from point A, he tells you my co-accused is at point B, even outside the country, or something like that. So you find yourself keeping that person there, not because you are underlooking the 48-hour rule, but the complexity of the investigation. But we are addressing that. I think we're making a proposal, if there is any constitutional review, so that that period can be looked at to enable us really handle some of these complex cases fairly well and in time.
All right, I'll have the Internal Affairs Minister supplement on some of those issues.
Thank you very much for this question. I think it is really important for us to be balanced in dealing with some of these issues. Whereas all of us are anxious to see results, sometimes by virtue of what my colleague, the Inspector General of Police, has pointed out, by virtue of the complexities of some of these cases, it may not be possible. And so, what I would like to urge is 1, understanding, 2, patience, and 3, to appreciate the fact that these people involved, the police officers involved, are not intrinsically malicious or bad people. They are trying their best, but circumstances are such that they may not be able to fulfill what they are supposed to fulfill within the timelines that they have been granted. Having said that, I want also to confirm that under the very difficult circumstances which we are operating under, there have been some successes. Indeed, people have been arrested in relation to certain crimes. People have been produced in court. Our responsibility as police stops with adducing evidence and presenting it to court. When court decides when to try Mildred or JJ or who, is not within our powers. And so sometimes we carry that blame as if we are the ones who have failed to try this individual, when what we were supposed to have done has already been done. Indeed, the Commissioner General will tell you that a large proportion of the people he keeps are remands, people who have been committed to court but are waiting to be taken to court for trial. So what do you expect us to do in that case? That's why I would like to urge that let us understand and let us be patient. But having said that, I wanted to quickly go back to some of the issues which you had raised, but which we did not conclusively complete. A short while ago, you were talking about kidnaps, but we did not complete. I just wanted to give you, to tie a loose end. One is that my colleague, the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, pointed out that kidnap is not a new form of crime, because otherwise, why did it enter into our statute books even before NRM came? But what is also true is that in about 6 or so months, we have seen a spike in this form of criminality, to the extent that from about January this year alone, we have about 72 reported cases of kidnaps. Interestingly, about 50% of those 36 cases of the 72 are actually self-kidnaps. We have, however, at the same time, been able, in the process of what we have been doing, to rescue about 15 individuals. Most unfortunately, we have lost about 10. We are still unable to account for 15 as we speak now. So those cases continue to be there. But what has also happened is that about 94 suspects relating to these 72 cases have already been arrested. 54 continue to be under inquiry, and some have been prosecuted. So the point I'm making is that we are doing something. It's not as if nothing has been done. That's one. Two, we continue to build capacity. in terms of what the Minister of Security has pointed out, in terms of investigation, we continue to build capacity in terms of response. We continue to build capacity in terms of our technical capacity to deal with some of these problems. So it is important for us to appreciate that yes, we have a challenge, but the challenge is in such a manner that we are doing something, we continue to study it, we continue to build capacity, and as I've mentioned from the very beginning, I have no doubt in our mind, like we have done before, we will be on top of this situation.
We had just about 27 kidnaps or so in the last year, and gauging by the statistics you've given, in this year, from January alone, we've had about 72. When you talk about continued building of capacity, wouldn't a Ugandan listening and looking at the statistics last year and now have some doubts?
Well, I don't know when you talk about 27 last year. I will have to cross-check that and establish, because I don't yet have that statistics within my records. But that is not a very big issue. We will be able to confirm that. But as I say, in spite of all of this, capacity is continuing to be built. Otherwise, if we didn't have capacity, would we have been able to rescue some of these people? If we didn't have capacity, would we have been able to arrest 94 suspects? If we didn't have capacity, would we have been able to take about 25 to court and have about 15 or 20 convictions? This is progress, work in progress. As we continue to understand what are the drivers of some of these forms of crime, why are they happening? As I did indicate earlier, it is a learning process all the time, and as we learn, we build capacity.
All right, I want to come to the Security Minister. Earlier on, before the Internal Affairs Minister looked back into the aspect of kidnaps, there was an issue being discussed about torture. And I would like you to face the cameras. I would like you to face the audience. The public asks, do we have torture chambers and safe houses in Uganda? And what are they used for?
I thought the Inspector General of Police had specifically and clearly stated that torture is not institutional. I am not aware of any torture chamber anywhere. I am looking in your face and in the camera's face. I am not aware of any torture chamber in Uganda. If it is there, I'd be interested to anybody to tell me where it is. And safe houses, depending on what you want to call safe houses. I don't know safe houses. I don't know whether you call our residences safe houses. So I am saying that security officially does not have torture chambers, and if I think it must have come from some bad writings or some bad publicity about safe houses which could have been there in the past, which were being misused. I know that security forces have some houses they use for their guests, but I wouldn't call them. I don't want the image that was given of safe houses which were being misused for abducting people or for mistreating them or for torturing them. So there are no torture chambers.
We have seen suspects in the Kowesi murder come to court limping. We have seen the storytellers of the Kamwenge mayor and some others who have come out to give evidence on their torture. Where are they tortured?
Yeah, they must give evidence, and that evidence must be followed and the truth established, who and where were they tortured, and then the truth will be established, like the IGP has told you. If anybody broke the law, fortunately most of the security services have established disciplinary measures for their people, and we shall follow that, and that's what we have been doing. We've been harsh, and the public should know this. We've been harsh to our own people. In the UPDF, we have the tough laws. You kill a person, we kill you. And that's how we have managed to keep the discipline. In the police, they have established the professional services unit. Even the judiciary have even instituted the inspector of courts. So really, we are moving forward. Tunasonga mbele. We are not going backwards. We are doing everything for the better of the future. We are not going to keep into the torture chambers of the past because they were talked about and they are brought about by the media, because we know what they were, the real torture chambers which we know of the old regimes which were there. We know what they were. So really, I want to assure the public that we are doing everything possible for the better future, for improving every aspect. And if there are any mistakes, they will be dealt with according to
And probably for clarification to the Commissioner of Prisons, have you received any tortured victims?
Into the prison?
Into the prisons.
No. But I sometimes receive people who have suffered under mob justice.
Some of these have actually complained about police torturing them.
Well, me, I wouldn't know. But I know I have people, and by the way, every case of injury on any inmate I admit, I record it very carefully. Most of the people who come with injuries to prisons are those who have suffered mob justice. The majority. I have had a case of complaint, of course. This was done in court from those suspects of the Sheikh's murders. They complained in court because they either came from Narfrenia. We had them, and we have looked after them. When you see them now, you might not know what they were complaining about. It's our duty to do that. We in prison, when you torture, you answer to the court. Torture is not a service offense. We don't deal with it. The person who has been tortured must go to court. It's a criminal offense, and it is dealt as such. I have had a case where an inmate had his leg cut off, and it was alleged it is torture from Kakumiro. No, this inmate escaped from Kakumiro prison. He was disabled during rearrest. There is no escapee who comes and gives himself up that I've come back. It's a struggle. Some get bullet wounds, some die. But this man's wounds were not, they were not managed well. That's why he got gangrene. And once you get gangrene, they have to cut off the limb. Otherwise, it will get all over you. If he had not escaped, his leg would still be there.
There have actually been allegations also of inmates being picked by various security agencies without court orders. Have those happened?
It cannot happen. Unless the inmate says, I want to go and talk to the judge, we shall take him there. The inmate says, I want to go and talk to the Commissioner General of Prisons. They will bring him to me. That's our procedure. But you cannot come and collect an inmate from prison.
Some have complained about that. Would we say that's false news?
Really? In 2018, 2017, 2016, you cannot come and collect an inmate from prison unless the inmate has requested to see another person outside. We take them to hospital, we take them to see the Inspector General of Police. An inmate can say, I want to talk to the Inspector General of Police. And we shall take him here and bring him back. But you cannot come as a security agent and you say, I'm picking prison prisoner X. I want to take impossible. It cannot happen.
All right, as we continue with the discussion about national security, we did promise to sample out some of your questions, and in just a minute we will be looking at some of those questions. But as we go through, I want to ask just one particular question to the IGP. As we continue to talk about murders, the issue of borders continues to come up. And yet, we still have an unresolved discussion about border regulation in the country. What do you have to say about that?
That the issue of border is the talk of the day. We were told the other day that very soon they will be electing their leaders. Once they elect their leaders, we are going to engage them. Now, first and foremost, the Traffic and Road Safety Act regulates the borders. As you may have heard, the President has given a direction. All borders will soon be wearing helmets with the numbers, readable numbers. All of them will have reflector jackets. Proper operational divisions will be cut out for them, so that we know at every center how many borders riders are registered there. We are going to regulate those borders, so that the issue of borders being used to perpetuate acts of criminality, I think it will be checked.
Who is going to take part in the registration? Who is enforcing the registration of these borders? Are you waiting for their leadership, or you as police are taking it upon yourselves? Because this is not the first incidence. We've had a number of instances of border silence. The AIGP Kawesi, the slain legislator Kano Ibrahim Abiriga. We had the same for Joan Kagezi.
We are going to sit down with the KCCA as soon as we can, so that we sort it out, how we proceed. But I agree with you that the sooner it is done, the better, and we are going to pursue that.
Did it have to take us this long?
Well, I think there had been some discrepancies between the agencies, who was supposed to take the lead, who was supposed to do this. But now I think things are clear. We are going to handle that.
All right. We're going for social media engagement. Before we do, yes?
Just brief on the border. In addition to the helmet being numbered and the border, there is discussion for technology which is available for making them carry a chip on each border, so that wherever it is, it can be
attached to a GPS.
It is attached to a GPS, and it will be supplied even at no budget to government. And that discussion is in high gear, together with the KCC and the police and all the other security agencies, with the Ministry of Works, and soon there will be a solution to the borders.
Do you have timeliness to that, or we can only wait after your discussions?
It's coming very soon because it's urgent and important.
All right. At this point in time, we want to engage our audience and take up some few of the social media questions that are coming through. And I'm directly facing my screen. The production team will be loading some of the social media questions that have come in. And I continuously say the hashtag to use is security UG. I think we will be taking a few of these questions and then answer them later. So the concerned chiefs should be taking a note of this. Okomo Marvin Carter asks, who is the mastermind of the crime? Should gun policy be revised? And I think that will as well be looking to the IGP. Maybe we'll answer it. I think the team needs that we answer one by one. Will gun policy be revised to the IGP and to any other of the security chiefs to answer that?
Will gun policy be revised? I've already made a submission on that. And of course, the Firearms Act of 1970 is also going to be looked at to see if there are amendments which can be made to fix the loopholes which have been existing.
All right, I think we'll be taking on another question on social media. Julius MT asked, the security organs, especially ISO and ESO, should look closely to make sure the country is not infiltrated by bad guys. It seems Uganda borders are porous. I think that's a submission that I know the CDF and maybe Minister of Defense will be reacting on that. If we could take a submission on that.
The country's borders are porous. You can't put a man on every inch of Uganda's frontiers. But that said, because of living within a restive neighborhood, the Minister of Defense talked about it. The attraction to Uganda is because of its stability, its peace. So one of the biggest imports we get are refugees, illegal immigrants, name them, all of them come to where peace is. Others come to seek opportunity. But also that comes with other implications. Bad influences, bad cultures, bad habits. So it's a matter of concern, yes. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, our refugee policy is a little bit very magnanimous. We are the only country which allows refugees to acquire land, to engage in economic activity. So we need, maybe because of the tensions over resources and all the other implications, to have a look at that policy so that we take care especially of such implications on our security regarding the people we take in through our borders.
Maybe the Minister for Defense will as well have a pointer on the porosity of our borders.
Yes, as the CDF has said, because of the stability of this country and the attendant general attractions, because you will never fail to have food in Uganda. The weather is good, the people are good. We have got relatives across borders, so anybody crossing from Eastern Congo will find a relative in Wunduhujo, a relative in Toroko, a relative in Kasese, a relative in Arua, and therefore the temptation to come and stay here by all sorts of people is quite high. But as he has said, we also have mechanisms of following up these characters, and sometimes when they engage in activities which are not compatible with our security, they are dealt with. I don't want to go into specifics now, which we are dealing with for security reasons, but clearly there is a mechanism of following whoever comes in this country.
All right, coming back to the CDF, I would ask, how do you rate the performance of UPDF in Uganda? Because when you talk about the UPDF, someone's mind runs to the Central African Republic, to Somalia, and to the various missions that UPDF is engaging in.
I think we have done well in terms of our functions, core functions of defending the country from external threats, cooperating with the civilian population, supporting civil authority, including the police. The question we asked earlier about how we work with the police to fight crime, engaging in production. So we have done well. And then projecting force for good outside our frontiers. Central Africa, tracking down LRA, we degraded them, but we had to leave. The other day we responded to a crisis in South Sudan, and we stabilized matters to cause engagement between the warring factions. We've been to Congo quite a number of times, the latest being when we struck at the camps of the ADF by air, no ground engagement. Then of course Somalia, where we moved the situation from despair to hope. So if I may sum it up that way, I think we have done well.
How much is this outside engagement costing the taxpayer back home?
True. But of course we have spent lives and treasure from other sources, external partners. They've been paying the bills of the missions in Somalia. But we've lost people. But also that looked against what we have achieved in terms of stabilizing that country. I think it's a worthy effort that UPDF has gone there and done what it did.
And basing on a gains losses assessment, would it still be viable for UPDF to stay in Somalia, for example?
Absolutely. But only to the extent that the mission ends are served. Because we are not there to stay there in perpetuity. We are there for a purpose. Ideally, it should have been premised on building the local capacity for the Somalis to take care of their destiny. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. We are part of a fraternity of countries in Somalia. We are not there alone, so we can just pack our bags and come out. Recently, we did a review of that mission. We also had a summit here. Our leaders expressed how they want that mission to proceed. And we thought our partners, international partners, listened, especially regarding the drawdown of forces when the job is not yet done. So those are things that we want to look at and then come out in a dignified way. But come out we must at the end of the day. We are not going to stay in Somalia forever.
All right, I'll come to Mr. Fono Pondo as well. I want you to throw your weight also on the aspect of Uganda's missions abroad. We've seen a lot of backlash coming in from the members of parliament, and that particularly on the aspect of how much the country is spending to have these forces outside.
Well, first of all, I want to thank members of the parliament contrary what they say for endorsing the president's request and the government's request to send troops to Somalia way back into 627. And also, while the cost the CDF has said is largely met by international partners, there are some residual costs that are met, that is met by Uganda. So first of all, I want to thank members of parliament. Now, for the naysayers, I think we just need to educate them about the interconnectivity of the African continent, the geostrategic imperatives that require, that necessitate that Uganda or other neighboring countries are in Somalia. I think we need to inform them how connected Somalia is to South Sudan, to Central African Republic, to DRC, to Libya. All countries that connect to each other, but there are no governments, so to speak. And therefore, what would be the consequences of Uganda or Kenya, for that matter, or AU standing by, doing nothing? The situation would have been worse. So I think really that engagement with our decision and policymakers is critical, but also for the ordinary Ugandan to appreciate that interconnectivity. Our engagement in South Sudan, for example, is a clear testimony. When South Sudan was stable, when UPDF was there, our economy was doing well. What we Ugandans did never expected that could be sold, millet in the gardens of JJ in Amuria. We were getting people from South Sudan coming to buy cassava from the fields, and the eaters there were getting money. Perhaps they would be now buying mangoes and so on. They were buying our local chicken. So these are simple things that we see with our eyes, we don't appreciate with our brains. And I think the job is ours, the leaders of Uganda, to try as much as possible to engage our local people to appreciate the international and regional dynamics.
To you, the IGP, with your new I would call it government of a sort. With your new leadership, lots of changes have been realized. One would ask, why trust the changes, yet crime continues in spite of those changes?
Well, as was submitted by one of the panelists, crime has been in existence, I think, ever since Jesus' time. So whether there's a new change of leadership, the crime will be there. The only thing is, how are we prepared to manage it? Definitely, we have to get to the drawing board, reorganize the operational capacity of the force, reorganize the investigative capacity of the force, reorganize the intelligence arm of the force, so that they work together, and together we shall really do what it takes to reduce the crime. You can't eradicate crime, but you can only reduce it.
How do you intend to build confidence after the president talked about the police being infiltrated by criminals? Of course, you've talked about the various interventions you are doing. The public perceives police as one that does not easily respond or quickly respond when they need you to intervene. How do you intend to build that public confidence?
First and foremost, there are certain small things which needs to be fixed, so that public confidence really is seen. Let me tell you one thing. Where a victim of a crime, for example, goes to a police station and you tell this victim, go and photocopy a police medical form, a victim to use her man again, you tell a victim, go and buy an exercise book, because stationery is not there. That's what I've said, no? We have capacity to provide all units with stationery so that the wananchi are not burdened. That's one way. Another one, the conduct of the police officers, those who are found to be corrupt, will be taken head on. Measures, of course, corruption is a criminal act, just like torture. Once you get involved in the corrupt practices, you have to be arrested and taken to the court of law. So in that way, of course, together with customer care has to be restored so that the public gets back to the police. And I think eventually, when we have done that, all said and done, we hope that with the changes that we're effecting, something will be seen, such that the public...
Maybe let me just add as well that on top of the measures the IGP has pointed out, maybe a month ago, we saw a very beautiful picture on one of the front pages of the newspapers, indicating that something that we seemed to have forgotten has been resuscitated, the 999, as a response arm within the police, so that their visibility and availability is improved. So we now have started building back the patrol unit, the 999. Two, on top of that, we have also established a 24-hour call center, so that if you have a situation, you can quickly be able to reach the police through that emergency response center. We have also now toll-free lines, and I would like to share these toll-free lines with you, the public, today. There are 3 operational and active 24/7. The first one is 0800 99990. The second one is 0800 99991. The third one is 0800 99992. So through these 3 numbers, you can be able to call and report a situation, and hopefully using the emergency response center, we will be able to respond through the 99 that I have just been able to point out. So through these little things that we are trying to do, we hope we will be able to reassure the public a little more. And of course, on top of this, as I have already pointed out earlier, we continue to build capacity in terms of intelligence, in terms of manpower, in terms of our technical capacity to be able to respond, to be able to identify, and to be able to act.
All right. Just there to add what Mr. just said, we would want to encourage the public take interest in knowing the number of your local OC station. Could it be at a sub-county, could it be at a parish level, a trading center, a town council. Please go out there, because many of them are having institutional lines that they will not be transferred with. It is permanent there. Through local systems and so on, you should be able to get those numbers.
Sure. All right, maybe to the IGP finally, on some of the questions that did come through also on social media, there is the growing insinuation that in the arrests that are being done, there is targeting of Muslims. What do you have to say about that? Because that is a concern that has been raised.
I think that is very wrong. All persons, whether you are a Christian, a Muslim, and a Hindu, as long as you commit a crime. If a Muslim commits a crime, we shall not say there is no crime committed because you are a Muslim. We are not targeting any particular religion. As I'm saying, for us we go in for those who commit crimes. If my uncle here commits a crime, incidentally, this is my uncle. If he commits a crime, it is not that his religion has committed a crime. It is him. It is him. So I think the public should rest assured that we are not targeting a particular religion. We are all out to fight criminality.
All right. I'll come to you, the Minister for Defense. There is an increased debt, reports of increased debt, of course, arising from suppliers of goods as well as services. How are you dealing with this in a way that it doesn't constrain operational ability?
There is no constraint to our operations at all. They are normal. We have documented procedures and arrangements of dealing with our suppliers. And therefore, in some cases where we have budget shortfalls, we have fixed arrangements of our suppliers bearing with us. When we get money, we pay them. But that there is paralysis is not true. The government has, in my opinion, reasonable and reasonable, I must say reasonable, I don't want to say surplus resources because we don't, but we do have resources to look after our army to the extent that we can. Where we have inadequacies, we explain, not only to our army but also to all stakeholders in government to understand that there are constraints that we have to live within our means. But we don't have paralysis at all. Where we have operations, they have happened. As you should know, we have really performed very well. When there was a call in South Sudan, we were very prompt. When there was a call for protecting our borders in DRC, at the invitation of the government of DRC, we were prompt. Wherever there is a problem within the country, the army is prompt and efficient in dealing with it. And we have come a long way. You remember in 1986 when the NRM came into power, the entire government was earning about 5 billion shillings in revenue. But the NRA survived, and it has continued to grow over time. The economy has now multiplied so many times. This cannot be the time for the UPDF not to work for lack of resources. So the resources are there, but once in a while We get budget shortfalls like any other ministry. Once in a while, depending on the circumstances, we have priorities within the economy, which take away money. Like you can see, we have done so well in terms of infrastructure as government. And this infrastructure is also good for security, because when you have very good roads like we do now, all over the country, to Moroto, to Soroti, to Arua, to Bundubujo, not just Bundubujo, but even across the border, the government had to work on the road up to Bundubujo, but also across the border to DRC. That facilitates the work of UPDF.
All right.
So really, but we also, within the Ministry of Defense, there are also priorities which we emphasize on. So there is no crisis. If there are debts like any other department, we will settle them. And I don't think you have heard that we are bankrupt. We are not at all. The institution is working. And the challenges are everywhere, just like they are in our homes, they are in companies, they are in any other body. But we are dealing with them.
And to the final question, and that has also featured on social media to the Commissioner General of Prisons, is the aspect of overcrowdedness in the prison services. If you could just comment about that and how you're hoping to deal with it.
In fact, we are congested.
About how many, if you could give us in terms of
3 times. The space of 1 inmate is occupied by 3 inmates. That is not pretty. But you are also aware that I'm constructing prisons countrywide. I'm also constructing a new Minimax prison, capacity 2,000. To give you a comparison, the capacity of the current maximum security prison in Ruzira is 600 inmates. But it has over 2,000 inmates currently. In fact, 3,000. Now, if I'm building one of 2,000, you can see how much I'm going to reduce. I will actually take all the convicted inmates in Ruzira to the new facility, leave only those who are going to court here in Kampala. So just with a click, that will be the end of congestion in the Uganda prison service. And I'm giving you only 1.5 years.
We do hope so, and time will be able to tell. The final question to all of us, and I'll start off with the ministers, is national reconciliation one of the options we are looking at? Because there's been a consistent call for national dialogue. I'll start off with you, Minister for Security.
Well, national dialogue between who?
On various issues.
We are starting with the national dialogue between the security and the media. National dialogue between the security and the public, whom we want to engage and get involved. And I think that will be the starting point for any other possible dialogues. I don't know which particular national dialogue we would want us to, if you are talking of the political, I think that one will be handled by the people involved in the politics, which we don't want to engage ourselves in. We wish they would all work like we work, we covering everybody. So I think that is but what is most important, which I think I should point out, and which I want to assure the public, actually, is that seeing from what we are doing as security agencies working together than ever before, we are sharing information so that we can hurry and enhance our security operations. We are acquiring technology and using it collectively for improving the security. We, in the case of the internal security organization, we are working hard with the district security committees at the district level to meet more often, to be more vigilant and ensure that they coordinate with us, to go down to the sub-county security committees, which had almost stopped working, which we are reviving, and more importantly, the neighborhood watch. I think that's where everything should start at the lower, at everyone's neighborhood. If the neighbors could meet more often around themselves, know whom they are, even work out their own security system on what to call or call each other if there is a problem. And it has worked in some cases where people have known whom they can call. And we think if we do that, that will add to all the other aspects we have talked about, which will enhance security. And once there is peace with yourself and your God, with you and your heart, with you and your family, with you and your neighborhood, and there is peace with you feel peaceful at that level, that will eventually move to the national security and peace in the whole country. And therefore, I think that will help us even to talk about other things like politics, like bringing business together, and that will be the foundation.
All right, and to the Internal Affairs Minister.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I can see we are drawing to the close. And if I respond to this specific thing, I wanted just to say one or two things. One, in an effort to fight crime in the cities, I would like to make two quick pronouncements. One, tinted cars. Public service vehicles with tinted windows, you must remove those tints immediately. Two, private vehicles. I'm consulting the relevant minister to put in place regulations even for private vehicles to remove tints. You know, many people have hidden and done bad things through hiding in these blackened vehicles. The second one, in relation to motorcycles, on top of what the Inspector General of Police has pointed out, many of us do the wrong thing. In the case of Abiriga, what was clear was that the persons that perpetrated that crime covered their faces using hoods. Put on helmets, clearly marked for us to identify you. We will challenge you and we will act if you continue to wear your hood. Coming to the question you have just mentioned, reconciliation, discussion, reconciling about what? I think that is the principal question we must ask.
Do you feel there is anything to reconcile about, probably,
yes,
or any aspect to dialogue about in the country?
Yes, certainly dialogue must be based on something specific. What is it that we must talk about and agree upon? Do we talk about potatoes, cassava, or what is it? Are we talking about political dialogue? What are the issues that we must discuss and agree upon? Certainly, I can share this with you. Talking has never been any harmful act at all. It's better than fighting. So if we can get involved in a dialogue, and a meaningful one, on specific and relevant subjects, so be it.
And to the Minister of Defense, we would like to have, and in your parting shots as well, do you think there is anything to dialogue on in Uganda, and is that one of the options that we are looking at?
Well, I hope you are not, by talking about dialogue, you are not presupposing that there is a crisis, because clearly there is no crisis. We have fora, different fora for political discussion in Uganda, democratic discussion. Parliament is one of them, a very vibrant parliament with government side, opposition side, with unprecedented numbers of independents, very free to express their views on any issue. We also have what we call in the Constitution, and which is also, exists in a real sense, the consultative forum. of political parties. It exists. And as far as I know, it meets. It is coordinated by the Electoral Commission of Uganda. All political parties get together once in a while, and the chair rotates among political parties registered in Uganda, and they discuss issues that affect the country. So opportunities and fora are there for political discussion. And this is not to mention the vibrant civil society which has taken advantage of the freedom that exists to talk about anything that they feel, including the media. So dialogue, the fora, opportunities for dialogue are available. If you are now talking of a different form of dialogue arising from a background which I don't know, then I'm afraid I cannot answer that.
That's the reason I asked if you think there is anything to dialogue about.
Yeah, because those who peddle the idea of dialogue, to be honest with you, presuppose that there is a crisis. There is no crisis.
All right. Our time is really first spent. I'd like to get the pattern shots from the Inspector General of Police.
Well, I have not focused my mind on any form of dialoguing. My concern is law and order. So that those who can dialogue will dialogue when there is law and order. I just want to invite the members of the public to join the hands with the security, so that they scare people are agitating and all this, so that people go and do their lawful businesses without fear.
All right, and to the Executive Director.
Just two things I want similar to disabuse. First of all, the narrative about dialogue is being peddled by people who have publicly said they have no confidence in our constitutional framework and the laws of Uganda. They don't agree that we have a valid parliament. They don't agree that we have a valid judiciary. They don't even agree that we have Ugandan having the authority to elect leaders. And by accepting that narrative, we shall be falling into their temptation to overthrow the constitutional framework, the constitutional order established in Uganda, and we must reject it.
Absolutely.
Because the dialogue in the country, apart from the parliament is not appointed, is elected every 5 years. Local councils are elected every 5 years. And when vacancies occur either by resignation, death, or otherwise, we would urge them, except if they
Maybe
were...
for local councils, we've not had elections.
Well, you're talking about a local council one. We'll now ask them, let them prepare. The Electoral Commission has given date, a month's time perhaps from now. Let them go and vigorously campaign there. They dialogue with Ugandans will give them the mandate. But for us to accept their narrative would be to say the institutions that we have are not functioning, which would be bending to what they want to achieve. Finally, I want to say...
So you wouldn't have a dialogue?
There's a dialogue going on. There's dialogue going on. This is my insistence. There's a dialogue going on. There's a dialogue in the churches, in the civil society, in the media, every day. We would want them to bring... They have members of parliament. Let them ask their members of parliament to bring the issues they want discussed in that parliament. What would be the legitimacy of another fora that they want to create? What is the legal legitimacy or the constitutional legitimacy of that fora that they would want? Finally, I want to urge Ugandans, appeal to Ugandans, not to succumb to the blackmail going on by these few criminal elements to try and deny us our ordinary way of life that we are getting used to. We must reject it. Ugandans must stand up, and because to succumb to them would give them triumph. We should never allow them to have that triumph.
The pattern shows for you, Dr. Byabashaija.
Bring them.
You will keep them.
I will teach them manners.
An interesting one. And the very final one goes to you, the Chief. The Chief of Defence Forces.
Yes, the last one on negotiating or making trade-offs on crime.
Last overview.
No, that one absolutely no. But as a team, we pledge to do our work, to do our bit, each one of us. Challenge, yes, but surmountable. Gaps there, we shall address them, the preventive ones and the response ones. Teamwork, we pledge to work more jointly to bring all our efforts to bear on this challenge. Everybody has a role, including the public, very critical. That's why we are reaching out to them. But also the media, positive role. So could you lend us that positive role to fight this challenge? Then the other institutions, religious leaders, you've heard about that perspective of so-called targeting of Muslims. We need their understanding, we need their effort, we need their push to handle this one. Business community, cultural institutions, name it. We need to keep this communication alive, this discourse, feedback, to be accountable to the public. We value their concerns, but also want to assure them that we shall handle this problem.
And with that, we do thank you very much for the time you did spare. And for the audience, we can continue this discussion with the hashtag SecurityUG, and of course, continue tagging the various Twitter handles in their offices. We want to say thank you so much to the various security chiefs for sparing time to speak to the Ugandans about the security situation. And we also want to say thank you so much to our media partners. NBS Television has been broadcasting this live, NTV, UBC, Urban TV, Bukede, and the various Vision Group sister companies. We want to say all the print media and the radios, thank you so much for being a part of this engagement. This is just the start of this series of engagements that will be happening to be able to have the country gets to know what exactly is happening on the aspect of security. I have been your host, Mildred Tohaise. Very good morning.
NTV, turning on your world.
The Timeline is brought to you by Everywhere You Go. Go TV, live it, love it.
Standard Bank.